are going to be surprised or not like to hear that you're actually right. Salesforce did a study that found that only 32% of the Gen Z workforce feels like they know how to use their technology within their jobs, which tells me two things. One, we're not doing what we need to be doing to build digital literacy at a younger age, preparing our workforce to go out and use the tools that they have available. Bad. And number two, we underestimate the skill sets that the tail end of Gen X and millennials got from growing up alongside technology. For Gen Z, technology has just simply always existed. They weren't developing new skills and learning new things right alongside with new technology as it became available. They weren't learning the basic foundations of coding from building MySpace or playing Neopets. Sure, they had...
That's true, bro. Like, yeah, MySpace turned like 13-year-old girls into coders.
Access to technology much earlier in life than most of us did. Everything was available at the tap of a button. Angel Fire,
yeah, that's another one, right?
Points have been removed from how they interact with most technology. And of course, we could argue that the business world needs to update the way that they're using technology, which of course I agree with. But that doesn't change the fact...
Why would the business world need to update? So you can't have coding or Microsoft Office anymore because some stupid kid can't use it? Oh yeah, that's the business's problem. Oh yeah.
That we've kind of created this perfect storm for Gen Z where everybody assumes because they grew up technology native that they should be able to step into technology tools within the workplace like this. And nobody has actually stopped to teach them how to interact with technology the same way that all the rest of us got. The last time
I never got taught how to do that. I'm going to be honest. I think this is their fucking fault. Like if you're dumb as fuck, if you're stupid, and you're not learning how to use the tech. Also, by the way, I bet half these kids are lying on their resume. Like, these kids are probably lying on their resume saying that I know how to use Excel, and then they can't use Excel. So that's the real reason. You could Google anything. Yeah, exactly. You can't figure out... if you can't figure out how to do something with tech, it's probably because you're stupid and lazy. Because you just don't give a fuck. Because you can look this up on Google, you can figure it out, but you don't.
Talked about this, I brought up the fact that I had typing lessons in school. So many people chimed in saying that that was never a thing for them. It sounds silly, but something like moving from the Google Suite, where all you have to do is press a button to share information with anybody in your school's ecosystem, to moving into the corporate world where there's rules and governance and you're in a different interface on Microsoft Word. And suddenly you can't just share everything with external people. You can only share PDFs. You have to learn how to export that information and attach it to an email and take all of these extra steps that never existed in your world before. And because
this is the same with any job. Like, of course there's a protocol to it. I don't think this is some sort of bro, this is a skill diff. Like, I'm going to be honest. It's not a skill gap. It's a skill diff. Like, it's if it's a skill issue, then maybe the problem is you. Everybody had to learn how to do that. The problem isn't that, like exporting a PDF. You mean you can't figure this out? There are 12-year-olds that know how to do this. If you can't do it, you're stupid. Stop being stupid. I think it's pretty simple, isn't it? Stop being stupid.
There were never any friction points. They don't know how to troubleshoot and just kind of dig into it and figure it out the same way that we all did. When I first started in the working world, there was no one to ask my technology questions to because I understood it better than most of my coworkers. So I did research. I dug in. I figured things out. And that made me more self-sufficient. When you've never had to do that kind of troubleshooting and people all around you know how to use the technology, you become...
I mean, there's definitely, I can see what she's saying. And I think that a really good parallel for this for, older people, people that are millennials, I guess, is cars, where it's a lot of people my dad's age know a lot more about cars than we do because the tools aren't that important anymore, right? You don't need to know all of these specific things about cars. So yeah, I think there's a good parallel for this, but here's the problem is that I'm not working at an automobile shop. Right? So I don't need to know this for my job, and so I don't know it. But like if I'm working for something and I don't know about cars and my job has to do with cars, then I'm a fucking idiot. That's all there is to it.
More dependent on those relationships and seeking out that information from your peers as opposed to doing the troubleshooting on your own. This is not me saying that all Gen Z is bad at using technology. It's not me saying that Gen Z is not self-sufficient and can't dig in to solve a problem. It's me just explaining why I think we see this skill gap exaggerated in a way that's so unexpected in the workforce.
I think that if you hold people to low standards, they'll meet them. I think that's what it is. You hold people to a standard of not understanding something. I think another problem is that a lot of accountability, and this is true also for people around my age, is a lot of accountability is outsourced to another person. So like, for example, the accountability of making a mistake or doing something wrong, like, it's the teacher's fault that the kid doesn't understand, the material. But like, the truth is the kid was sitting there on his phone all day in class. So like, how is it really the teacher's fault that the kid's on his phone? Like, he just put his phone down. And I think that's really the problem, is that people are not used to accountability. And I think you can see this a lot on Twitter, is that nobody ever likes to take accountability for anything bad that happens to them. It's always because of a mental illness. It's because of a societal force. It's because of the government. It's because of their parents. It's because if you actually sit down and evaluate a problem, and I've done this, right, with people that I know, the reality is that they are causing all of their own problems. And I think this is true 90% of the time. Most of the time, people are the architects of their own demise. People are causing their own problems. That gets it everybody else's fault. Thanks, gentlemen. Yeah, exactly. And so if you go and you blame somebody else, it's like, oh, well, yeah, this is what's holding me back. That's what's holding me back. And there are instances, guys, hey, there are instances where somebody else fucks you over and something happens to you and it's not fair. But the majority of the time, there are cases where that happens, but you put yourself in a situation for it to happen. So it's kind of your fault too. So people are so afraid of taking accountability for anything that they do. They're trying to look at the workplaces and say that, oh, well, yeah, in this job, it's the job's problem that I don't know how to use Excel. Well, Excel was a requirement for you to know in the job application. So why did you apply for a job that said you needed to have an understanding of Excel whenever you don't have that understanding? And then, so number one, you're lying. Number two, it's like, now that it's the business's fault that you did this, get the fuck out of here. What do you mean? So yeah, I have a job every 15 minutes. Well, yeah, just lie, right? Simple. You hear this argument, it gets a little bad. You understand external reasons making things harder for you. Then you realize you need to take responsibility. Yeah, hell yeah, I'm lying. It's not my problem. Yeah, you've told us to lie on resumes before. You should, but you shouldn't lie on things that are verifiable. That's the problem. And like, yeah, you lie on a resume, and then what you do whenever they teach you, they tell you, okay, well, now you need to use an Excel thing. Bro, you Google that shit, you figure it out right then before they figure out that you didn't know it. Like, yeah, yeah, of course, right? Or you figure out a way to blame it on a coworker or do something like that, right? So yeah, how do kids take responsibility whenever nobody taught them critical thinking skills? Well, I'm sure some of them do. And I think that kids do understand critical thinking skills. I think the problem is that thinking about I feel like almost all topics and almost all like types of even hard science are turned into an emotional topic, to where everything is driven by how somebody feels about a topic rather than what the actual data or information is. So for example, there are a lot of like very, very simple truths in the world. Like, for example, the earth is round, right? Everybody knows this, and the people that don't are stupid. But like, why is the earth round? And growing up, there wasn't as much of a emotional attachment that people had to thinking and to different conclusions of thinking. But nowadays, it's like you can't disagree with somebody politically without hating them. Like, I see this all the time. And it's like people emotionally dial up every single argument. And every argument is like emotionally escalated to the point to where this person is advocating for genocide, or they want to kill homeless people, or they want women to be slaves or something like that, right? Like everything is like super, super, super dialed up. And it's escalated to the point to where people start feeling like they can't think on their own. And so I think that, yeah, kids do know how to think, but they choose not to because they're brought up in a world where all types of thinking is, what do you call it? It's like, so let me give you a good example. So the problem is that using logical thinking will make you come into conflict with two of the main ideologies in our culture right now. New World Order was trying to shut me down. So this is where the problem comes from, right? The problem comes from an issue that with two of the most prevalent, like, liberal thinking and conservative thinking, if you apply critical thinking to either one of these ideologies, it directly contradicts a number of types of things that they believe. So, for example, illegal immigration, open borders being a good thing. All you have to do is logically apply thinking to this topic, and you will realize that this is a bad idea. This is obviously a bad idea. Or the idea that you should get rid of all police officers. Oh, we shouldn't have police officers anymore. So this will put you in direct conflict with a massive ideology and a culture, even though you arrive at that conclusion logically by thinking about it. On the contrary, with conservatives, you can look at something like social distancing for COVID. It logically makes sense that if you stand farther away from another person, the probability of a particle from your mouth will be less likely to touch them. This is like the most common sense, logical explanation of thinking that you could possibly have. Of course this would be true, and there's no argument against it. So the problem is that in any of these instances, or masks, yeah, masks are another example. Let me think of some more examples about it. Basic kindergarten logic. Yes, exactly. But 20 feet away is even better? Well, yeah, it would be. That's true. Yeah, of course. Or like, getting rid of all guns will stop gun violence. Well, it just doesn't logically make sense. Because we've had people with guns for a really long time, and school shootings are kind of recent. So if guns were the problem, we would have been having school shootings in 1920, and we didn't have that. So what was the change? Was it the size of the guns? Maybe that's a factor. And you have to think about it more logically. But people look at it in an incredibly basic sense. So the problem is that people that are being raised nowadays are thinking in terms of this binary, and the binary doesn't make any sense. Because, like, again, and this is a problem, it's kind of like, so, and it's like a cult, right? So a lot of times in cults, in order to get into like the inner circle, right? So I think Dante's Inferno, this is like you going over the river Styx. Now you're in the deepest part of the hell of this cult. Well, going over that river is actively refuting and repudiating and giving up your own source of logic and critical thinking in replacement of the cult's logical thinking and beliefs. So this is what happens a lot of times, right, with people, is that now that you have fully given up your own right to critical thinking, now you can be truly part of our organization. And I think the same exact thing applies with normal culture nowadays, because there are so many things that people are required to actively ignore. Like, oh yeah, like for example, climate change is a huge issue. Everybody has to use plastic straws, but Taylor Swift is flying around with an airplane all the time. Like, where is the proportionate problematic? Like, where are the proportional, outrage for that? How is this okay? And so this is the problem, is that people who think for themselves come into conflict with two of the biggest groups in all of culture right now. And the problem is that those two groups are so emotionally escalated and are so emotionally charged that if you come into contact with them and you disagree with them, they will try to completely destroy your life. So most people live in a world where they have to actively say, the emperor has no clothes. Or the emperor has great clothes, whenever the emperor is wearing no clothes. They have to actively say, the sky is green. So you have to constantly reinforce these dogmas that are just so blatantly and evidently untrue, but you have to in order to get along in society. And what I think that teaches people is it teaches people to not have any source or any type of critical thinking, to not apply critical thinking to different topics and situations, because if you apply that critical thinking to those topics, you could potentially punish yourself by losing a group of friends or by losing, by losing a job or anything like that. It's 2 + 2 + 5. Yeah, exactly. 2 + 2 = 5. Well, this is basically what I'm saying, is that in a world where 2 + 2 = 5, eventually people will stop caring about math. And I think that's what's happened. People have stopped caring about math because every popular, line of thinking in the world requires you to actively give up your autonomy of critical thinking. Makes sense, but it goes too deep to care for most people. I think people really do care. I think this is a huge issue because people are taught. I think everybody knows how to think, but people are trained not to think. And people are trained not to think because of how strong and how emotionally charged every conversation is. I don't think people are stupid by... I don't think that they are stupid by... like, they didn't spawn in and be stupid. I think that they were made to be stupid, and they have made themselves stupid in order to not cause friction and problems in their own personal lives. And I think this permeates over everything. It permeates over, like, male and female relationships. Like, oh yeah, the solution to how to be a real man is, like, this weird guy that, like, has a bunch of cars and, like, he doesn't have a wife and, like, he never shows his wife. He has, like, says he has kids, never has his kids. Or, yeah, this is how to be a man. Or, like, all of these other, like, weird things. Like, having, like, drag queens, like, talk to, like, kids. What are you doing? Like, any logical person would see this as being problematic. Any person would see this as being bad. But somehow it's seen as it's not, and people get mad about it. That's the reason. And this is the issue, is that, and I'm saying that for both sides, there are these ideological inconsistencies that if you point them out, you become their enemy. And so people are trained to just believe in what they're told. That's what it is. Virtue signal, never criticize. Yep. And so that's what people have been trained to avoid critical thinking. It's an internet reality where most people in real life have their own opinions about things and don't give a fuck about things. I think that also, like, I think in real life it's probably the same thing. Are you with us or against us mentality? Yes, exactly. Cherry-picked Bible quotes, etc. Yeah. I've always had to shut my brain off to keep my job. Yep, there it is. How many of you guys have been in a situation like that? Yeah, how many of you guys have been in a situation where, like, you've had to, like, not have an opinion or not think something that's obvious because you're afraid of getting in trouble? And I think this has always been the case, but now it's more prevalent. I'll absolutely be kicked out of college for the wrong opinions. I don't know. It depends on the college, depends on the opinions, right? But, like, my point is that this is why younger people are afraid to think. Is because I bet a lot of those people did think for themselves, and then they realized, oh my fucking god, if I say what's obvious, I'm going to have everybody hate me. Or people are going to call me like a racist, or people are going to call me like a bad person for something. Absolutely. I'll be right back.